Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best cores currently in Regulation H. And a big reason why today I really want to do this video is because a couple days ago, the Victory Road, or, Pokemon, I guess, announced the first Grand Challenge for 2025. For anyone who doesn't know what the Grand Challenge is, this is basically just the old Global Challenge, except it will only be for the TPECI regions, I believe. So, my understanding is basically most of Asia won't be able to participate in this. Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, I believe they can't play, but the rest of the world basically will be. But yeah, anyway, this is just, it's the first one. It's a pretty standard global challenge, right? Or similar to it at least. It'll be best of one closed team sheet on ladder. And yeah, because of that, I think this is just the perfect time to go over some of the best cores in the game right now. Because I think when preparing for events like this, obviously one, it's closed team sheet, it's hard. But two, it is really important to, I guess, know what is popular, right? Because there are going to be a lot of people running the popular stuff, and you want to at least have, specific matchups into them. So yeah, that's why today we're going to be talking about some of the best cores in the game. So the first core I want to talk about here is a pretty standard balance core that is currently picking up right now. I like to refer to it as like King Gambit plus Volcarona, but really it is just a really strong core right now. It has a lot of setup, it has a lot of good support, and can just put out a lot of damage. So right now, Volcarona is like the key part of these teams, or at least one of the key parts. In terms of items, these guys normally run either leftovers, because one, leftovers paired up with Reroom is pretty damn busted, right? You get leftovers plus grassy terrain healing here, and all of a sudden you're healing like 12.5% HP every turn, or 12% HP every turn, I should say. And you weave in a protect, and all of a sudden, you go for something like Quiver Dance here, and then you click protect, and then bang, you just healed back 24% of your HP. Volcaronas right now, in terms of moves, they're either going for, I have seen some Heat Wave pick up, just to obviously give yourself some spread damage. But Fiery Dance is pretty standard. A 50% chance just to raise your special attack by one stage is pretty broken, especially on a one that wants to set up. And in the last slot, it's Giga Drain. Gives you a really good matchup into Dondozo, especially if you have the support coming from things like Clef and Rillaboom. Because one, if they don't Terra, you can just Giga Drain. Two, if they do Terra into Terra Grass, which is the common one, you hit them with the Fiery Dance, right? So really good. Not to mention, it's just extra healing, right? So it's always really nice to get it back. The common Terras on this guy right now, I have seen things like Terra Grass, Terra Dragon is also quite popular. Really, it comes down to just what you're trying to beat, right? Even Terra Water is really good neutral defensive typing. Again, Grass gives you one, an immunity into Amoonguss, and two, it also just gives you a stab Giga Drain as well, which is pretty solid. But yeah, me, personally, I like Terra Dragon. I think it's just really good into a lot of the water types running around right now. It also gives you a pretty decent matchup into Rain as well, if you need to, because Archelodon really has to go for Draco Meteors, and if you got this thing next to Clefairy, or Clefable, I should say, yeah, it doesn't really want to be doing that. It wants to go for Electro Shots, and yeah, it's not going to have a great time thanks to that. So Volcarona, definitely one of the key parts of this team. Quiver Dance is just one of the best setup moves in the game, if not the best, right? The ability to boost your speed, special attack, and special defense is kind of insane, especially when this mon has, like, such naturally high special attack, right? Like, this mon can just go, like, no investment, right? A lot of the time, you'll see people go for things like this. You'll hit whatever, specific speed tier it is, you're looking for. I think, like, 143 is what I was personally running. And then you can just literally, like, split like this, go, like, a Bold Nature if you want to. And then you just, like, click one Quiver Dance, right? And then all of a sudden, this mon, even with, like, no investment, still has insanely high special attack, really good speed. It's just really good, yeah. Then you have King Gambit. Now, on these teams, I have seen two different sets. One is like the safety goggles stuff. Goggles, one, gives you another immunity into Amoonguss, which is never a bad thing. Two, it is also just, really good, right, for ignoring redirection. The other set, though, is the Black Glasses set. Now, pretty similar to what Volcarona wants to do on this team is King Gambit wants to be your second setup threat, right? So a lot of the time, they're going to run things like Cat's Eye Cleave and Sucker Punch. That's Substitute. Sucker Punch. And then finally, they're going to go for things like Swords Dance plus Protect, right? And basically, it's the same thing, right? You have the Clefable, you have the Rillaboom, right? It's just, hey, you're like, hey, I've got Redirection, I have Fake Out, I can, take a turn or two to set up my Swords Dance. And then once this thing starts getting +2, +4, +6, Sucker Punches are just going to start one-shotting things that even resist it. So it's pretty crazy, honestly. Terra Dark is very, very good on this mon. I would say it's probably the most common one right now. I don't really see people running anything else. Terra Dark just gives you insane Cat's Eye Cleaves and Sucker Punches. If you wanted a defensive Terra, I guess Terra Dragon probably isn't too bad. I could also see a world where, like, maybe Terra Fire's okay if you think you're really weak into, for example, opposing Volcaronas and you don't want to get burnt by Flame Body, which, by the way, I didn't even mention with the Volcarona. Very good ability in the current metagame. But yeah, I would say something like this here is pretty standard. I would recommend going Dark Terror, though. I do think it is the best way to play it. In terms of, like, EVs, like, I don't really like giving EVs right now, simply because the meta, I think, is still up in the air. But a lot of the time, when you're playing something like King Gambit, you're looking at something probably along these lines here, right? If you want to go a little bit of speed, maybe you could drop a bit of attack, right? Drop it to the 180 bump, go there. That's meant to be adamant, run a little bit of bulk here. Maybe you put in, like, a bit more Spadef in, right? something like that. It's entirely up to you, right? But yeah, this mon, it tends to run slow. Just max HP, max attack is pretty, pretty solid on this. On these teams, the Rillabooms right now, they're like all Assault Vest. I will say, I think Assault Vest is very good on King Gambit, but I think when you pair these two together, you want it on Rillaboom. In terms of Rillaboom, I personally, I just like Terrafire. It is definitely the most common fire Terra on this Pokemon. Terrafire is just really good on grass types in general, right? It gives you, a lot of really good matchups that you had, that were pretty poor before. And on top of that as well, it just stops you from getting burnt by things like Volcarona, right? It also gives you, for example, Paldean Tauros, right? Their Blaze Breed right now is picking up in usage, right? It gives you a resist to that. It can't burn you. Incineroar can't burn you. It can't Flare Blitz you. I mean, they can, but like, it's not for much damage. So, yeah, that's pretty standard there. Wood Hammer, Grassy Glide, and Fake Out are all absolutely mandatory on this Pokemon. Just a lot of damage, priority thanks to Grassy Surge here, and just Fake Out's one of the best moves in the game. And then finally for the last move here, it's entirely up to what you want to run, really. High horsepower is like my personal preference. But a lot of people also opt for U-turn as well, just because having U-turn is just really, really good for keeping the pivoting and the momentum up, right? And finally, on these teams, you have Clef. Now, Clef's an interesting one, right? Because I think Citrus is probably its best set. Occasionally you'll see things like Rocky Helmet. I also think Mental Herb as well is also like really good, especially if your Mouse 8 matchup is bad. Having Mental Herb so that you can just like redirect a taunt from Mouse Hold and then redirect again the next turn, I do think is very important. And Unaware right now is just incredibly good. It has a lot of really good matchups. Dondozo being the main one. Also pretty good into things like Volcarona as well, right? Because if you just sit there and you're like, hey, doesn't matter if you're +3/+3/+3. I can just keep, spamming. Sorry. I can keep spamming Follow Me. You're not really doing that much damage. And you can kind of just ignore them, right? Terras, I like Grass personally, just to make a Moongus free. Because with Terra Grass, you can just basically redirect spores all day. The only thing I will say is obviously keep your Poison Weakness, which is not ideal. In terms of moves though, so like Follow Me and Moonblast are definitely like the two most staple in my opinion, I would say. Obviously this one wants to Follow Me. It's a redirection bot, so because of that you want Follow Me. Clef does have a decent special attack stat, so even with no investment, these Moonblasts still do quite a bit of damage. And then from there, it really comes down to what you want the mon to do for the team, right? So Skill Swap is a pretty common one we've seen. I know people like skill swapping their Volcaronas, so that one, you get Flame Body onto your Clef for redirection. But then also two, your Volcarona now has Unaware, so you can just ignore the Dondozo, for example. You can ignore opposing Volcaronas and stuff like that. It's really cool. This mod also gets access to things like Icy Wind, which I do think is very interesting. It also gets Helping Hand as well. Protect is also very, very good as well. So there's a lot of things this mon can do. In terms of EVs, I do think this mon's pretty simple. I think you just honestly run something like this. Just go like Bold Nature. He's got like Bold, you split. Very, very simple, right? This mon has a very good, natural special defense stat. Its HP also is very, very solid. So something as simple as this, you just say, hey, I just want to redirect physical attacks. And yeah, it's really good. And this team, honestly, I do think it's one of the staples in the format. I've spent probably way longer talking about this than I should have. But it's very, very good. We're seeing it rise up quite a lot. We're seeing it paired up with things like Gengar. The Tauroses as well are also fitting in on this team. So yeah, it's a very good team. Definitely something to keep an eye out for, as I do think it is probably the best version of Balance we have in the metagame right now. So the next core I'm going to touch on here is not... I mean, technically it's like two cores. I'm going to kind of merge them together, but they are also very, very good individually. First one here is the Pelipper stuff. This is just Pelipper Rain, right? Archaludon, Pelipper, with their best friend Basculegion right now. Basculegion. So these three here make a incredibly good core right now. Obviously, Pelipper is probably the best weather setter right now, at least one of the best with Drizzle. Very, very good. A very good holder of the Focus Sash as well. Terra's right now, I think Terra Stella is very, very good. Terra Ghost is also not too bad as well. Depending on kind of what, your team's trying to avoid, right? If you want to make sure that you say you don't get faked out, Ghost is very nice, right? Because you can lead Pelipper plus Basculegion. And just kind of go from there, right? But in terms of moves, pretty simple, right? Hurricane, Weather Ball, Protect. And then it's at that stage up to you, right? Wide Guard is pretty good if you're worried about things like obviously Golden Go. If you want a bit of speed control as well, it also is a Tailwind bot. I'm not going to touch on EVs because if I touch on EVs for every team, I'm going to be here all day. But it's a Focus Sash one. You just go max. Archaludon right now, very good Assault Vest holder. Stamina on Rain in particular is very good. I do think Sturdy plus Power Herb also is very nice. Terras are pretty simple. I think Grass is just the absolute best on it right now. There are other options. I see people go for things like Terra Fairy. I just think Grass is the best personally. Electro Shot is what makes this mon so damn good on Rain, right? So Electro Shot, for anyone who doesn't know, it is a, it's a charged move basically. So it's like you take a turn to charge. On that turn, you get +1 special attack. The next turn, you will attack. In the rain, you ignore the charge turn. So you just get +1 special attack, and then you attack with 130 base power special attack, which is insane when you look at how high this mon's special attack stat is, right? You know, a lot of people run things like this, right? You don't need much investment at all. And after, you know, like, even at 166, you get a +1, all of a sudden, you know, what, you plus an 83 onto that or some shit. Gets pretty freaking out of control. And also, Archelodon kind of just stat checks a lot of mons in the game. Its stats are just really good. It's a pseudo-legend, very, very good Pokemon. To round it out, Body Press pairs incredibly well with Stamina. You know, if you get +1, +2, and we'll kind of talk about that soon, it does start getting out of control. Of course, it's a Dragon type. Draco Meteor is very, very good. And it is also one of the better steel types in the game. So Flash Cannon is also incredibly good. Basculegion on these teams right now. I'm seeing a lot of Choice Band. I also think Life Orb is really good. You pair that with Swift Swim. A lot of the time you will see things like Terra Water. Now, I do think things like Terra Fairy is also not too bad. Terra Grass as well. I have seen people go like Banded, Terra Grass, Terra Blast. Same thing with Terra Fairy as well. I think Terra Fairy, Terra Blast is not too bad. But I'm a huge fan of Terra Water on this one. But the build's pretty simple, right? You go Wave Crash for a lot of damage, right? You go Flip Turn for a bit of pivoting, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second. You got Last Respects being one of the most broken moves in the game. As a late game sweeper in rain, this thing will just start one-tapping everything thanks to its Choice Band. And then again, last move here comes down to whatever the team is, right? So I think if you're running Banded, you're probably just going to look at something like maybe Aqua Jet. I think Aqua Jet, honestly, is like almost good on every set anyway. But yeah, there are a couple different options. It's really up to you. I've even seen people run like Phantom Force here as well. I think if you're playing like Life Orb, though, I will slightly change things up. You're going to drop this for Aqua Jet. And he's going to go like Protect in the last slot. The one thing I will say you want to do with this team, though, is you want your Basculegion to be faster than your Archelodon naturally. And the reason for that is because, for example, you'll see people who, you know, they'll run something like, you know, if whatever it is, right? You're going to be like Adamant Max Speed, something like this, right? And if they lead something that is a bit slower, and basically your Basculegion's fastest thing on the board, you can just go straight up for the Flip Turn if you're playing like Banded set. You just go like Banded, Flip Turn, turn 1. You Flip Turn into your Pelipper, and then you just Electro Shot on that same turn. So you get the Flip Turn chip, you get your Pelipper in safely, and then you just get to click a big Electro Shot. So very, very good. But now the other core here I'm going to talk about is you can kind of separate these, I guess, in a sense. But I also think they pair really well together, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it here. It's just Mouse Ape. So Mouse Ape is a combo that at the start of the format, everyone was like, shit, this thing's broken, it's too good. And it's kind of dropped off a bit as people have, you know, kind of learned to play around it. But really, the more people, I guess, play against it, the more you start realizing, hey, like, it is still really good. Especially when you pair it on teams like this, where you have lots of different modes. So the idea behind the Ape here right now, again, up to you. Leftovers is probably the most common set. I have also seen people run things like Safety Goggles, right? Defiant's very good into the Intimidates and the Parting Shots of the world, right? In terms of Terrors, you probably want, I would say on Rain, you probably want Terra Water. Terrifier is pretty common as well if you're not playing on the Rain teams. The set's pretty simple though, right? It's Drain Punch, it's Rage Fist, by the way, one of the most broken moves in the game. And then it's just like Bulk Up, Protect, right? Nothing too crazy here. And then the mouse on these team as well, it's nothing too crazy. You'll see people go like Safety Goggles here. It's your Friend Guard mon. You're gonna go like Follow Me. Terra's pretty simple. You go Terra Ghost so that you can't be faked out. And then you set simple, right? You're gonna go like something like Beat Up. You're gonna go Protect. And you're gonna go Taunt. Taunt gives you a really good matchup into opposing Amoonguses. You know, we're talking about it earlier with the Clefables, right? Because Clefable is a mon that wants to redirect your Beat Up. So how do you get around it? You just go, Taunt into the Clefable. You Protect your Annihilate, and then the next turn you go for the Beat Up shenanigans, right? But the thing that I think Bowser does really well on these team is it also pairs really good with Archelodon, right? Because one, Friend Guard's really broken, right? And when you look at Annihilate stats here, really good HP, defense is kind of lacking, special defense is pretty decent. So, with a bit of investment into Spadef, you click Bulk Up, all of a sudden this mon becomes incredibly hard to deal with, right? I don't know what the kids are running these days. I think it's something like this. But yeah, the kids, you get a Bulk Up, right? And then all of a sudden, this mon has really, really good stats. And you pair that with Friend Guard, it becomes incredibly hard to deal with. It has Drain Punch, all the good stuff, yeah? But then, you can also just say, hey, I'm actually not going to play the Annihilate mode, right? I'm going to play the Archelodon mode. So then you put this thing next to Archelodon, which again, we spoke about it before. It has really, really good stats, right? Assault Vest, really insanely high special defense, right? You've got the really good HP stat. You have Stamina, so every time you get hit, your special defense gets raised, your defense gets raised by 1. And that's where Beat Up comes in, right? Because again, this pairs really good with Annihilate for anyone who doesn't understand the mechanic. Basically, on turn 1, if you've got, all 4 Pokemon are still alive, your Beat Up is going to hit something 4 times. So you're going to hit your Annihilate 4 times, right? You're going to give it plus 200 to its Rage Fist. So all of a sudden on turn 1, you have a 250 base power Rage Fist. Alternatively, with Archelodon, you're going to give this thing +4 defense, which means all of a sudden, this 0 freaking investment stat, right, is up at 450 defense. Your body press is now using your defensive stat. You kind of see that synergy, yeah, where like Mouse just kind of makes these two guys like get on, like it makes them insane, right? Is what I'm trying to say. It makes them kind of insane. And then the reason they pair so well, I guess, with this core as well is, okay, it's like, what are you going to do, right? Okay, they're going to Mouse at me turn 1. Are they going to Mouse Arch me turn 1? Are they going to Vascular Legion Arch Ally on me turn 1? Are they going to Vascular Legion Pelip at me turn 1? There's just so much you can do, right? It really makes it like matchup roulette in the sense of like, if you get the lead wrong against either of these cores, especially when you pair them together, it gets insanely hard to deal with. I will say like a final one to throw on this list. Whimsicott is a one that has also seen a little bit of play on these teams as well as like the Tailwind one, because it also gets beat up. Just gonna throw that out there. Something else you can definitely look at as well. But yeah, one of the best cores in the game, two of the best cores in the game really. And yeah, definitely something you need to have matchups into, especially Arch Rain. This is the most common combo in the game right now, I would say, or at least common core. So the next core combo, whatever you want to call it, that I want to talk about here is my guy Whimsicott, you know, the GOAT we just had on the screen. Paired up with Typhlosion. Now, the reason this core here is so damn good is because Whimsicott is one of the best prankster mons in the game. It gets access to Priority Tailwind, and it gets access to Priority Sunny Day. Which, when you pair it up with Typhlosion here, who is the best Eruption Pokemon in the game, it is also naturally a Ghost type, so it can't be faked out. You all of a sudden have an incredibly potent combo where you run something like this. You go like Modest, having a Modest, you go Specs. You go like a Modest Nature. And then all of a sudden, this guy here, right, is clicking Eruptions, Terrify Eruptions in the sun, and is doing a lot of freaking damage, right? It gets kind of crazy. Whimsicott, though, to round it out, Moonblast, like, Encore is pretty simple. In terms of the Terra here, it depends. I'm actually a fan of Terra Steel right now, but I also think Terra Rock is really good. Basically, you just need a Terra that allows you to not get one-shot by Talonflame, because Talonflame can... If you're not running Sash, basically Talonflame will just one-shot you with a Brave Bird, right? So I do think having a defensive Terra that allows you to live a Brave Bird is very important. But yeah, the set's pretty simple here. Typhlosion as well. This is really kind of like however you want to run it. I've seen people run stuff like this where they'll go like triple fire plus Shadow Ball, which I do think is honestly not bad. You can always drop one of these as well for something like, you know, Solar Beam's an option, which I don't recommend. I'm pretty sure it also gets like Scorching Sands, right? No, am I crazy? Am I thinking of Charizard? I thought this thing got Scorching Sands. Okay, I'm wrong. It doesn't get Scorching Sands. I will say, though, one thing as well as Fire Pledge has seen a little bit of play when they pair it up with things like the Swamp stuff, like Meowscarada plus like Primarina as well. But yeah, I guess for the sake of this, even Overheat as well if you really wanted. I'm just going to put Flamethrower there for now. But yeah, this combo here is like really, really good. And the two mons in particular I like to pair with it are Blood Moon Ursaluna and Dragonite. Now, the reason I like these two so much is, one, Blood Moon Ursaluna is just an incredibly good special attacker. And I do think Turbo Bear in the current format is really good when paired up with Whimsicott in particular. Whimsicott as well can also go for stuff like this. If you want to get like really crazy, you get like Fake Tears, and then all of a sudden like these two are really just like one-tapping everything. But realistically, you know, Terra Normal, Moon, Blood Moon is just insane, and like same with Earth Power and like Hyper Voice, right? They're like really, really good. I will say as well, I also think you can slap a Farigiraf on this core. One, protects your Typhlosion from Sucker Punch coming off things like King Gambit. But also, too, just works really well with Ursaluna, right? Same with Typhlosion. If Typhlosion is faster, you know, you've got the Armor Tail here to block priority, and you can just click Helping Hand. You know, Trick Room's always hard, so you've got a mon that can reverse Trick Room for you. Obviously, you can click like a Stab Psychic as well. If you really want it as well, you got things like Imprison, right? I have even seen people go for stuff like this, right? Where they go like Expanding Force. You just got like Expanding Force, Imprison, and then you just beat Side Spam teams off it. So, yeah, really, really good there. But yeah, Blood Moon Ursaluna pairs up really well with Typhlosion because it's able to hit some of the mons Typhlosion can, you know, struggle a bit with, right? Gives you a decent mon into the water types, decent mon into the rock types, right? So, you know, having the Earth Power and the Blood Moons there does, you know, allow you to kind of slap them pretty hard. And then finally, Dragonite is just the mon I really enjoy on Whimsicott teams. I think Assault Vest is good, but also Choice Band as well is also not bad. Simply because, again, what's Whimsicott's like biggest weakness right now? It's Talonflame, outspeeding it, and nuking it. How do you kill a Talonflame, boys? It's called Terra Normal Choice Band at Extreme Speed. You just bop it, yeah? You go something like this, and the Talonflame just drops. And it kind of forces the Talonflame to, like, reconsider what it's going to do turn 1. Oh shit, now I have to, you know, go for something like Terra Ghost. You go Terra Ghost, all of a sudden, I've just got an outraging D-Knight running through your team, right? Also, you know, things like Ice Spinner as well can be used on this one. I personally wouldn't run Ice Spinner on a banded set, but I think it's still, you know, half decent. You know, you got access to things like Low Kick as well for the King Gambits, which again, Gambit can cause a lot of issues for Typhlosion. They can sometimes cause a lot of issues for the Whimsicott, so having that option there is also not too bad. Terra Blast as well is okay if you want to run things like Terra Flying. Go for like Terra Flying, Terra Blast as well, which I think is pretty good. I feel like I'm missing a really obvious move on this set. What am I missing? There's like one move I feel like really should be on this set that I'm just ignoring. I do know some people run Facade. Maybe Stompy T. I think Stompy T is the one I was forgetting. But yeah, so something like this I think is really good. It covers it quite well. And again, Giraffe here is just, again, it's pretty good, man. Like, you run something like Safety Goals here, give yourself another Moongus matchup. Terra, probably just like Terra Fairy in the current metagame. But yeah, this just gives you like a really good matchup as well into like Trick Room. It gives you ways to protect the Typhlosion, the Saluna. Also just a really good partner for like just buffing up two, you know, insanely good special attackers. Now, speaking of Trick Room, right, I'm going to piggyback off that and talk about another core that has been picking up quite a bit recently. Now, this one's like, it's pretty simple. We have seen it in the past, but this is just like the, what's it called? In my opinion, at least, this is just like one of the simpler ways right now to kind of just play Trick Room. So, you got P2 with a Violet, really, really good, right? You get that with Download. You get it with something like, you know, Terra Ghost, whatever it is, right? And then this mod just goes Trick Room, and it has, let's try it, Scott. It has Trick Room, and it has Recover, right? So basically, this one is insanely bulky, right? You know, I don't know how the kids are EVing this thing right now. Basically, you max out your HP, your defenses are kind of already insane, so a Violet just makes them even more insane. And then from there, you know, that's Trick as well, not Trick Room. So you got Trick Room, you got Recover, and then it's kind of just whatever you need, right? You want Try Attack, right? A lot of the time, you'll see people run things like Terra Blast, yeah? You can also go for things like Bolt Beam, right? So people will go like Thunderbolt plus Ice Beam as well if you just want to have a bit of coverage. In terms of special moves, this guy can kind of do it all. But really what makes P2 so good is its ability to pair up really well with these three mons here in particular. So, obviously, Ursaluna with Flame Orb Guts is one of the scariest Pokemon in the game. Right now, Ghost and Fairy are probably the two best terrors on this guy. And then you go for things like, you know, Burnt Sarge, you go for the Headlong Rushes, Earthquake if you really want it, and then Protect. That's also not Earthquake, that's Earth Power. Earthquake. I've also seen people drop this last move here as well. They go for things like Swords Dance, because again, you have a lot of support, right? You have a Moongus, you have Incin, you have P2. You can go for things like Swords Dance. You can also go for things like Substitute as well, which I do think is also pretty damn good. And yeah, this guy, you just kind of go max like Attack Brave or something. And then yeah, after your Guts boost, you have over 300 attack with 140 base power Facade. You have 120 base power Headlong Rush. And this one's just kind of one-tapping everything. But again, the synergy, man, it continues, right? You go for things like, you know, Citrus Berry and Moongus, right? And Amoongus P2, right? All of a sudden, P2 gets up Trick Room. Amoongus starts putting everything to sleep. It starts redirecting with Rage Powder. And the next thing you know, this guy here, maybe he gets his +1 special attack. So 0 investment, you get +1. All of a sudden, this guy has, you know, like 199 special attack or whatever it is. And then you know, your Ice Beams, your Thunderbolts, you know, your Terra Blast, your Tri Attacks, whatever it might be, start doing a lot of freaking damage, right? And Amoongus, he likes playing under Trick Room. He's one of the slowest Pokemon in the game, yeah? So all of a sudden, you know, you go in there, you got maybe your Clear Smog, your Pollen Path, whatever it might be, right? I like Protect on this guy as well, but if you don't have a, that's meant to be. If you don't have a good Dozo matchup, though, I do think having Clear Smog here as well is pretty good. But yeah, and you just start this cycle where it's like Trick Room, Spore, Recover, Spore, Attack, pivot into Incineroar, pivot back into Amoongus to heal it up now because Regenerator's broken. In terms of Terra, probably Terra Water on this guy. But yeah, and then again, you got this like cycle all of a sudden with these two, right? Where you got like Intimidate, you got like maybe Safety Goggles here. Dude, they really need to like not have, like, why is Safari Ball even an item? Kind of annoys me. But yeah, all of a sudden, you know, you got maybe, so what is it? I think the kids are running like Knockoff, Fake Out, Taunt, Parting Shot, something like this, right? That's Takedown. Why? What did I, that should be, what the hell, man? Taunt. Facade. Either I can't spell or I got cupped there. But yeah, so this core here, it's incredibly annoying and it allows you to just like, it just starts positioning the team really hard, right? Because like, again, you put it like Ursaluna into a position where it's eventually going to sweep the game. And that's kind of where it just thrives, right? You know, again, P2 sets up Trick Room. Amoongus puts everything to sleep. Amoongus plus Incin, they pivot around each other, right? You're faking stuff out. You're putting stuff to sleep. And then eventually your Ursaluna comes in. It's going to get up its sub, its SD. And it's just going to run through you, man. It's just a really, really strong Trick Room core. Now, since we were talking about Dondozo, probably the best time right now to talk about it. Dozogiri right now. Dondozo and Tatsugiri. So, for anyone, I guess, who doesn't understand how these two work, the commander ability says if your ally is a Dondozo, basically you jump in his mouth, you give him a double Omni boost, right? +2 to every stat. This guy's pretty fat, right? None of his stats outside of his HP or anything too crazy, but again, you start doubling it all, kind of starts getting out of control, yeah? Dozo right now, they love leftovers, they love unaware for the mirror matchup, and it also like really good into opposing setup pieces. In terms of Terra Grass right now is still the most popular, but I do think we will see people adapt as the format continues to develop. Terra Flying is really good because Terra Flying, Terra Blast allows you to nuke things like a Mungus, so yeah, definitely keep that in mind. But right now, the standard set is this, right? You go for Wave Crash, you go for Order Up, you go for Earthquake, and you just go for Protect. Yeah, very, very simple. The Mon is just really damn good. I think the kids are running like 84. Like I've seen people run like as low as like this, and they kind of just like dump into Spadef because like stuff everything else. Because again, like the defense stat is like already so high, and same with the HP stat, like you just don't need investment. This Mon needs its speed, it needs its special defense, and of course it needs its attack. So something like this here, I do think is relatively standard. But Tatsugiri as well. And now I've seen a few different sets. In the past, I like the Focus Sash stuff where you go like you're like Muddy Water, Draco Meteor, and then you go like Protected Thorn. So then you can like use it as like a defensive piece. I also played it in the restricted formats with what was like Counter plus Mirror Coat, I think it was. Yeah, Mirror Coat. Because there's basically what it says is like you live any one hit thanks to your Focus Sash, and then you can fire back with one of these two depending what you think is going to kill you. So pretty good. I will say though the most common stuff on it is like Choice Scarf, right? So you go like Choice Scarf, Icy Wind. You'll occasionally still see people go like Taunt as well on these. But I do think Dragon Pulse as well is pretty nice because Dragon Pulse just gives you a consistent move rather than Draco Meteor, right? So these two here, they're pretty standard, right? These are two of the better ways to play it. I do think Kiri likes Terra Steel. But yeah, these are just like, this is the most common way I would say to play this core right now. But what makes this combo good is the partners you pair with it. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth on this, but Talonflame right now is probably the main one. It just gives you that secondary offensive mode. Because the thing with Dondozo, right, is when you're playing Dozo, you either, one, use it to break a hole so your team can clean up, or you want to break a hole so Dozo can clean up. That's kind of the way I like to look at it. So you pair Talonflame, being one of the best Tailwind setters in the game, up with some of the best attackers in the game, and then all of a sudden, this combo becomes incredibly good. The two most common partners I would say right now for this is Golden Go and Dragon Knight. Now, again, not going to go too in-depth on this, but it's pretty simple. Choice Bandit D-Knight and Choice Specs Golden Go are really strong, and they're really good at breaking holes in opposing teams, especially when you have things like Talonflame with Gale Wings, right? And then in terms of the last place here, Pormot is definitely the most consistent partner you'll see here, right? This is it, right? You'll see like Focus Sash here, that's Focus Ban. I'll quickly fix that up. Focus. Yeah, you'll see people go like Focus Sash. I do know people are going Natural Cure, which to me is a bit crazy. I don't know why people aren't going Volt Absorb, but it is what it is. And then this guy here has a Revival Blessing. So basically what this guy does is you can say, hey, I'm going to leave my Dozo set up, sack it off, Pormot comes in, revives my Dozo, we go round 2, yeah. It's also just, like, it's decently quick, it's decently hard, you know, Double Shock and Close Combat are also very good moves. Yeah, you see stuff like this. It's also a Fake Out Mon as well. Probably is the fastest Fake Out Mon in the game, at least, especially when you're running like a Sash set like this. You're not going to run into much that has faster Fake Out. But yeah, this here is like a pretty standard set. But yeah, this is just how people are running Dozo. You set up Tailwind, you break a hole through it with these 3 pieces. And also, like, this core of 4 here is actually, like, not too bad as well, right? Because, again, if you think your opponent's really set up for Dozo, you're like Talonflame, Golden Go, like Tailwind, like, drop a couple, you know, specs, make it range, you sack off your Golden Go, you bring in the Porbat, you just bring the Golden Go back, and then you come back and start, you know, dropping some more Terra Steel, make it rains. But, yeah, just a really good combo. Definitely something you have to keep an eye out for. A lot of people have been telling me the last month, Dozo's not good, Dozo's not good, Dozo's not good. Guys, I'm telling you right now, do not fucking disrespect Dondozo. Do not tell me Dondozo is a bad Pokemon. This Pokemon's really fucking good, and you will continue to see it do good. If you ignore it and think, hey, it's bad, it'll come back. You might say, hey, Dozo's bad, I have 3 counters. It's like, yeah, you're good into Dozo. There are going to be people who aren't good into Dozo, and they're going to fucking lose to this piece of shit. Trust me. So, now, I'm going to kind of carry on from this core here, and kind of split it up to talk about the next core I want to talk about here, which is a Tyranitar's core. Now, T-Tar is picking up a lot in usage right now, right? So, a core like this here is very, very common. At least this core 3 with Talonflame, Golden Go, and T-Tar. Now, in terms of the Garchomp slot here, this could definitely become Excadrill. I personally wouldn't recommend running both of these guys, but definitely one of them on this core is really good. But yeah, this core here kind of just gives you a very strong mode, right? So the way I personally been playing Talonflame lately, at least on these teams, you go like Tailwind, you go Brave Bird, you go like Taunt and Willow, right? Very, very good. It gives you obviously good damage with Brave Bird, and the Taunting ability just gives you really good utility. Golden Go again, you're going for like, specs, make it rain here, Shadow Ball. I do think Power Gem's honestly not too bad, but it really comes down to what you do. I also like Trick here as well. So something pretty simple like this, you've got the fastest tailwind in the game, you've got the Make It Rain. Really, really good, yeah. T-Tyre on these teams, they're almost always going Terra Flying, Terra Blast. Big reason for that is like, one, gives you a really good matchup into what beats T-Tyre a lot of the time, right? Things like a Moongoose, you can kind of nuke him, Rillabooms as well, you can kind of nuke him out. And yeah, Terra Flying, Terra Blast is just good on this one, yeah? Not to mention, like, it has Rock Slide, which, again, I will say, Rock types are like the best partners for Tailwind teams. I've been saying it all format, right? You got Glamora, who I also should have mentioned on that Dondozo team, Mousee and Arcanine as well is pretty good, and now T-Tyre as well, right? You look at, like, every Talonflame team that exists, yeah? If I lead my fucking Tyranitar into the Salt Vest, there is, like, nothing they can pair with it that will kill my T-Tyre in one turn, and I click Rock Slide, and I just trade, right? I'm like, I'm going to kill your Talonflame, you're not going to kill mine, and I'm also going to chip your friend down. It's just really freaking good. Also one of the best knockoff mons in the game, and Low Kick is just really good for matchups into, opposing T-Tars and King Gambits, right? So yeah, really, really good. But the other thing as well that I personally really like with this team here as well is with Terra Flying, it allows you to open up for one of these two to click, Earthquake if you really, really want it. Now, I don't know if I recommend it because Rillaboom is on like every freaking team. Because of that, I do think High Horsepower is good. Obviously, this guy actually doesn't get it. He only gets Stompy T, I think. Stompy... God, I can't type. Tell you what. Yeah, so Garchomp here, he gets Stompy T. This guy, though, yeah, he does get High Horsepower, right? They're both also really good Swords Dance pieces as well. Both naturally pretty quick. So you can go for things like SD, and then, here you go, something like that. If you're running SD, you're probably going to drop this definitely for Protect. Go like, double stab plus Protect. If you want to run things, like I've seen, like Focus Sash 3 attack as well, where people will drop this and go for like Rock Slide, and then you just go like double Rock Slide. It's just really, really good. Same thing here with Garchomp as well, right? We've seen people go for things like what it's called, Dragon Claw. If you really want it, you go like Dragon Claw, and then you drop this for like Protect or something. I think you could even like run probably like Scale Shot if you really wanted to. This mod can also get kind of annoying as well. There's like a specific set you'll see people run where they go Bright Powder. So you go Bright Powder plus Sand Veil, right? So it makes your evasion on this mod really high because like you get the 1.25 times thanks to Sand Veil in the sand. Bright Powder also gives you, 0.9 times as well. And then they drop this and they just go Sub. And the reason for that is because they can miss the Sub, right? So you set up Sub and then you just start firing off big attacks behind the Sub, which I definitely think is pretty cool. And then, yeah, same thing goes for this guy, right? Normally, your item... I actually should have touched on items as well. If you're not going Bright Powder here, you're going for Clear Amulet. And same goes for Excadrill, right? You're either going to go Focus Sash, or you're probably going to go for the Clear Amulet as well. Now, I shouldn't actually say that. I do think Life Orb is actually pretty solid on both these mons. I think the Terra Ground Life Orb stuff is actually good for both of them as well. Because it really gives them just a lot of freaking damage. So... really, when it comes to these two, there's a lot you can do, right? There's a lot of things you can change around. I'm not going to go too much into it because I feel like I could be here all day because they kind of do the same thing, yeah, at the end of the day. But yeah, really, really good. And they just pair incredibly well with these two, right? And again, there are some other pieces you can add to it. I've seen people add things like Gastrodon to a core like this. I feel like there's one other mon I'm blanking on right now because normally there's like a fourth piece that like doesn't care too much about the sand. What am I blanking on? Oh, I hate myself for this. I feel like I have seen some Archaladon on this team as well, but I don't know if I would recommend it. Dude, why am I blanking on this? I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. It's not Komodo, it's not King Gambit, is it? Oh, I am gonna hate myself. There's like a fourth mon I wanted to talk about here as well that I forget. But basically, yeah, this is the gist of it anyway, right? This is the core 4 here that I think is really good. You should definitely try it out and definitely have a matchup into it. Sand right now is picking up quite a lot, and it's definitely becoming very scary. Its matchup into rain is surprisingly very good. Alright, so to round out this video, the last team I'm going to talk about here is, again, kind of like a mixture of two cores here. It's like Spam Sunroom. So we've got things like Hat, for example, Hatterene. Hatterene on this team as well can also be Armarouge as well. Of course, you've got Indeedee for your Psychic Terrain. You've got the Goat Torkoal here. You've also got Lilligant, right? Very, very good. This core of 4 here is probably the most common 4 you'll see. I do think Gallade, like, also actually, I'm going to put it here. Gallade definitely has to be on this team as well. This is like your core of 5, right? You can change things around. Some people will drop the Lilligant and just go hard Trick Room. Ursaluna also fits really, really good on this team. Occasionally, you will also see people run Hat plus Armarouge here. We've also seen Hisui and Braviary as well pick up in the past, but Just very, very good stuff, right? So normally you'll see things like Cover Cloak here, like Cover Cloak plus Magic Bounce, and you just go for things like, of course, Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam, Protect, and of course everyone's favorite Trick Room, right? This here is the pretty standard hat set, right? You're playing quiet, you're playing max. It's very, very simple. I have seen people go for defensive terrors on this as well. Water's like pretty common, I think. You could probably even go for something like Terror Dark if you wanted. But yeah, honestly, just some defensive terror is really, you know, the most important thing for this guy. Hat on these teams, sorry, Indeedee on these teams as well. It kind of depends what you want. I think Rocky Helmet's like definitely an okay option. I personally prefer Psychic Seed simply because I don't like having an item for when I get knocked off. So for example, you go up against Rillaboom, not Rillaboom, Incineroar, you go follow me, and you know, they go to knock you off, but you've already consumed your item, so it doesn't do quite as much, right? But yeah, Follow Me, Trick Room are definitely the standard two on this set. Helping Hand is also an option as well if you really want it, and then you got things like Protect. If you want to have your own move as well, Psychic's not bad. You can go for Dazzling Gleam as well if you really wanted. Terror type on this guy is Fairy. You want Fairy so you can resist the Dark type attack. It's just very, very important. EVs are simple. I think you just go on max, something like this with a Bold Nature. If you want to go like Relax as well to drop your speed, you can. Very, very simple for these two here. The whole plan is you send this out, you get the Psychic Surge up, you go Follow Me, you go Trick Room, and then you go like Helping Hand, Expanding Force, Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam, whatever it might be. Yeah, it's pretty freaking standard. Then you got this guy in the back as well. I like Charcoal because I like to switch up my moves. Choice Specs is also a pretty solid option. But basically, you set up Sun here, you have Terra Fire, and you have Eruption. You're also the slowest Pokemon in the game thanks to your really, really bad speed stats. So you go like Quiet 0 speed. And yeah, you just start clicking some really big eruptions. You go for like Heat Wave as well for in case you get chipped. That's Heat Crash, Heat Wave. You also go for things like Earth Power as well to help you hit some of the rock types out there that are kind of annoying and just Protect, right? Again, you'll also see people opt for things like Weather Ball here as well if you want single target, which I do think is pretty good. Especially if you see, you know, things like the choice spec sets as well. They'll, you know, definitely drop Protect for Heat Wave in that slot as well. But yeah, really, really consistent. Torkoal just does insane amounts of damage thanks to its Sun, Terrifier, Charcoal Boost, all that kind of stuff, yeah. Lilligant on these teams is pretty simple. It's just Focus Sash, yeah, Chlorophyll, Terra Ghost, so you don't get faked out. And then it's pretty simple again, right? You got things like Close Combat, and you got things like Solar Blade, right? So you have two massive nukes, coming off a relatively, you know, decent attack stat. This is nothing crazy, but with an Adamant nature, you do hit pretty hard, especially with, you know, the base power of these moves being so insanely high. But you also have things like Sleep Powder as well to be really annoying, and you have After You. Yeah, normally I would recommend dropping at least one move here for Protect. Solar Blade or Sleep Powder are probably the common two. The reason After You is so good on this team as well is because with 157 speed, you're going to outspeed basically everything that isn't clicking Tailwind. And then because of that, you go After You, making your Torkoal go first, and then Torkoal just starts firing off really fast eruptions, which is very, very good. And then the final piece on this team is the Gallade. Now, in terms of items, in the past, I've seen people go Clear Amulet. Recently, Scope Lens is also picking up in usage quite a bit. I believe Sharpness is definitely always the move you go for here. You don't care about the ability to be flinched. You just want to have the slicing move powered up. And then, yeah, you have a really cool niche of where, like, you are one of two Sacred Sword Pokemon in the metagame, which is really good into Dondozo. It's also a stab attack for Gallade. And it also gets boosted by Sharpness, making it 135 base power, which is kind of insane. You also have access to Psycho Cutter as well. Psycho Cutter is really good because, one, high crit rate move. Again, you pay that Scope Lens. It's very, very nice. Two, you have Psychic Terrain on your team, so you're also getting the 50% boost there. And then again, it's also a Sharpness move, right? So you're getting an extra 35 base power, making it pretty goddamn insane. You're also another Trick Room setter here as well, and you're also a Wide Guard support. So yeah, this here is pretty standard. Again, people are just running something pretty simple like this, I believe, where they got like Brave Nature, 0 speed, and just going max attack, max HP, right? Very, very simple, but very, very consistent. Terra on this guy, I believe, is Terra Fire because it gives you the ability to be immune to Blow Whiffs. So yeah, another very, very strong core. I will say, I think Bravado recently was playing the Hisuian Zoroark stuff as well with this. And it's kind of just like a last minute, like I'll throw it in. Because it turns out, guys, if you lead Indeedee plus this guy and you have Helping Hand on your Indeedee, Terra Normal Choice Specs Hyper Voice from this thing does a lot of fucking damage. Like, we're talking a lot of fucking damage, right? Because people will, like, lead this, and they'll, like, disguise it as the hat, and you're like, oh, shit, they're going for, like, Redirection Trick Room. And then all of a sudden, they go for Helping Hand, Terra Normal, Hyper Voice with choice specs. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. This model also gets Hyper Beam as well, so keep that in mind. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. I have spoken for way too long. My throat is very, very sore. And I do need to wrap this up, but yeah, I guess let me know what you think down below of the GC coming up, but of course of these cores. Let me know if you think there's anything I missed. In my opinion, these are like what, probably like the 8 or 9 most common cores right now. And look, they're all really, really good. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about them because yeah, we're about like what, as I said, 2 weeks away from the GC. Also I'll throw it out there, if you're watching this within like the first like couple hours of me uploading it, I will hopefully be streaming tomorrow, which is like 24 hours right now for recording, probably about like 14 hours after I upload this video. I'm hopefully going to be doing a stream. I'm planning to do a bit of a team build, right? Basically preparing for the GC. So if that's something you're interested in, obviously come check it out. And if you miss it live, you can always watch the vlog. But yeah, anyway guys, that's going to be it for this one. And yeah, catch you guys in the next one. Peace.